What if you were given a second chance to relive the same day over and over again? Would you see it as a curse, or could it be an opportunity to finally take control of your life? For Phil Connors, a cynical and self-absorbed weatherman, this is exactly the challenge he faces. The story of Groundhog Day opens with Phil Connors, a talented but arrogant weatherman at a local TV station in Pittsburgh. Phil's life is ruled by a sense of entitlement. He's not interested in the people around him or the work he's assigned to do. His interactions are transactional, he does what's needed to get by, without putting in any real effort or care. He believes he's destined for something bigger, but he's stuck in a job he feels is beneath him. Sound familiar? Sometimes we can all feel like we deserve more, and while that belief isn't inherently wrong, Phil's mistake is assuming that his success should come without putting in the work to connect with others or appreciate the moment he's in. His next assignment? Covering Groundhog, an event he deems ridiculous and beneath him. He mocks the tradition, calling it a waste of time. But what Phil doesn't yet realize is that this assignment is about to teach him the most important lesson of his life. Phil travels with his producer, Rita Hansen, and cameraman Larry. From the moment they arrive, Phil's bad attitude and disdain for the small town are apparent. He dismisses the people and treats the event like a joke. To him, this assignment is a throwaway, a meaningless task standing between him and what he considers real opportunities. Phil's negativity is something we can all relate to at times. How often do we dismiss the present, waiting for something bigger or better to come along? But what Phil will soon learn, and what we can take away from this, is that sometimes the real opportunity is right in front of us, we just don't see it yet. After a frustrating day covering the Groundhog Day ceremony and making fun of the beloved groundhog, Phil is eager to leave. But a snowstorm, one he confidently predicted would miss them, traps him in the small town for another night. The next morning, Phil wakes up to the same song on the radio, "I Got You Babe," by Sonny and Cher. At first, he thinks it's a strange coincidence, but as the events of the day unfold in exactly the same way as the day before, Phil begins to realize something is terribly wrong. Phil has become trapped in a time loop, reliving February 2nd over and over again. At first, he is in disbelief. His natural reaction is confusion, frustration, and anger. He tries to break the routine, but no matter what he does, he wakes up the next morning to the same song, the same radio hosts, and the same day playing out before him. What would you do in Phil's shoes? Would you be overwhelmed by the monotony, or would you start to see it as a chance to rewrite your story? Over the next several loops, Phil begins to experiment with his situation. He tests the limits of what he can do without facing any consequences, since the day resets each time he wakes up. At first, he indulges in selfish and reckless behavior. He realizes that, since there are no lasting consequences, he can do whatever he pleases. He gorges himself on food, robs an armored truck, and drives recklessly through the town. He flirts with women, manipulates people, and even punches an old acquaintance who annoys him by constantly greeting him with over-the-top enthusiasm. As Phil grows more comfortable with the idea of reliving the same day, he shifts his focus to Rita. He becomes obsessed with winning her affection, though his motivations remain selfish at first. Each time the day resets, Phil tries different strategies to charm her. He gathers personal information about her, such as her favorite drink, what she studied in college, and her ideal partner, and uses this knowledge to present himself as her perfect match. Despite his best efforts, Rita consistently rejects him because she sees through his insincerity. Each attempt ends in failure, and Phil becomes increasingly frustrated. But while it might seem like fun at first, Phil soon discovers that this superficial existence leaves him feeling empty. Living only for pleasure and indulgence doesn't bring him any real fulfillment. In the same way, we too can sometimes chase temporary pleasures, thinking they will bring us happiness, only to realize that true satisfaction comes from something deeper. As days continue to repeat, Phil's initial thrill of consequence-free living wears off, and he begins to feel the crushing weight of his situation. He's stuck in a loop with no escape, and no matter what he does, the day resets every morning. There is a point where Phil starts to question the meaning of his existence. He becomes depressed, feeling that nothing matters if there's no progress, no real change. He even attempts to end his life several times, but each time he wakes up again on February 2nd, stuck in the same loop. This part of the movie can serve as a powerful reminder to all of us. When life feels repetitive, when we get caught in cycles of negativity or despair, it's easy to feel hopeless, as if nothing we do matters. But what Phil will come to understand, and what we should remember, is that real change starts from within. We can't always control the circumstances around us, but we can change how we approach them. Just when Phil seems to have hit rock bottom, something begins to shift in him. Instead of seeing the loop as a curse, he starts to realize that maybe it's a gift. If the same day repeats over and over, what if he used it to become the best version of himself? What if he stopped focusing on his own desires and began to genuinely care for the people around him? This is where Phil's transformation truly begins. Let me ask you, how do you handle life when it feels repetitive? Have you ever felt stuck, like no matter what you do, nothing changes? If you have, let me know in the comments below. Phil starts to approach each day with a new mindset. Rather than focusing on what he can take from the world, he begins to focus on what he can give. He becomes deeply interested in the people, learning everything he can about their lives. Instead of treating them like the backdrop to his personal struggles, he starts to see them as individuals with their own stories, struggles, and dreams. His first significant act of kindness comes when he notices an old homeless man who appears to be suffering. Phil brings him food and tries to help him, but despite his efforts, the man passes away by the end of the day. Phil is heartbroken by this, and he tries multiple times to save the man in future iterations of the same day, but nothing works. No matter what he does, the man dies. This moment serves as a reminder to Phil, and to us, that some things in life are beyond our control. We can't always change the outcome, no matter how hard we try. From here, Phil decides to better himself in every way. He learns to play the piano, taking lessons from a local teacher every day until he becomes an expert. He even takes up ice sculpting, creating beautiful works of art from blocks of ice. Phil has begun to shift his perspective. He wakes up each morning knowing that he's still trapped in the same day, but now he sees the day as an opportunity, not a burden. As Phil's inner transformation takes root, he experiences what can only be described as a perfect day. He wakes up with purpose and moves through the town with a sense of peace and joy. He catches the boy who falls from the tree, helps the couple with car trouble, and performs at a grand piano recital, where the townspeople marvel at his skill. Every action is deliberate, and every moment feels full of meaning. There's a lesson in this for all of us. Sometimes, we get so caught up in the big picture that we forget how much of an impact small, daily actions can have. We might not have the power to change the world in one day, but we do have the ability to make a positive difference in the lives of those around us, one interaction at a time. Phil's relationship with Rita also begins to change. In the early days of the loop, Phil tried to manipulate her, using what he learned each day to try and seduce her. But now, he's no longer trying to win her over with charm or tricks. Instead, he respects her, listens to her, and engages in genuine conversations. Phil's connection with Rita is a reflection of the deeper changes within him. He's learned that real love and real relationships come from honesty, empathy, and selflessness. For the first time, Rita stays with Phil at the end of the night, and the connection they share is genuine, free of manipulation or superficiality. Phil's perfect day is not about everything going right for him, but about how he chooses to approach the day. He has transformed his reality by changing himself, and in doing so, he's discovered a sense of fulfillment he never thought possible. The next morning, something extraordinary happens. Phil wakes up next to Rita. The same song is on the radio, but this time, something is different. The dialogue from the radio hosts has changed. It's February 3rd, Phil has finally broken the loop. The endless cycle is over, and time has moved forward. Phil and Rita together celebrate the new day. For Phil, this moment is more than just the end of the loop, it's the culmination of his personal transformation. He's no longer the arrogant, self-absorbed man. He's a man who has learned the value of growth, compassion, and love. The day has finally moved forward, but it's not the passage of time that matters, it's the change within Phil that has set him free. Groundhog Day is not just a movie about a man stuck in time, it's a profound metaphor for life. At some point, many of us have felt stuck, repeating the same routines day after day. We've wondered if anything we do truly matters. But Phil Connor's journey reminds us that while we can't always control the circumstances of our lives, we can control how we respond to them. Phil's transformation teaches us that personal growth is the key to finding meaning and fulfillment. It's not about achieving external success or gaining the approval of others, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves, day by day. So, what will you do with your day? Will you wait for things to change, or will you take control of your own growth and happiness? Like Phil, we all have the power to break the cycle and live each day with purpose and intention. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more motivational content. Up next, we have a powerful story about extraordinary events in the most unexpected place. It's a tale of compassion, justice, and the mystery of life.